Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video will be more of a discussion video about the differences between PvP in Dragonflight and PvP in Wrath of the Lich King, and maybe it could give you more insight on what you are able to do in Dragonflight compared with Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Of course, this video is not here to paint Wrath of the Lich King Classic black. It is still a fan favorite expansion. People are still playing on it, and I do still play on it also occasionally, although I would say that Dragonflight is just taking a bigger part of the gaming time because it is frankly a very good expansion, at least from the looks of it. The expansion didn't really come out yet, but we already see the progress that they are actually making from Shadowlands to Dragonflight. And now I'm going to give you a few insights on differences between those two expansions. But before we start, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, like the video if you like those kinds of content, and please comment below what you think about the video. Now, I'm going to cite a few differences between Wrath of the Lich King Classic and Dragonflight. The thing is, in retail, whenever you are playing a PvP match, which is, let's say, solo shuffle, 2v2, 3v3, or even 10v10, you are going to gain conquest points, and that conquest points can be spent on items that you want to purchase. So if you want to purchase the weapon first, or if you want to purchase chest first, or the helm, it is all possible. Of course, in retail, you do get a conquest cap every week. Once the season has started, you have, like, let's say, a cap of 550 conquest points or 800 conquest points, depending on the expansion. Sometimes it is different a season from another, but it makes that you can actually progress towards the actual stuff gear that you actually want for your character. I feel like it's also very rewarding because you don't need to wait a full week to get your conquest points to actually spend those conquest points. So at least you are not time gated as much as, let's say, in Wrath of the Lich King. In Wrath of the Lich King, whenever you are playing a match of arenas, to get some rating or to get arena points, you do not get arena points from the get-go. You don't get it right now. You get it after a week. If you play 10 games in 3v3, in 2v2, or in 5v5, you get your points at the end of the week, which is week to week, so from Wednesday to Wednesday if you are from Europe, or from Tuesday to Tuesday if you are from United States, the region United States, right? Now, the issue with that system is it is not really rewarding to actually play. A lot of people are actually just logging in, doing those 10 games, and then logging off, because really doesn't really matter if you're not pushing a lot of rating. And pushing rating is something you can do in Wrath of the Lich King, of course, but a lot of people are going into Wrath of the Lich King for the PvE instead of the PvP, which makes that it's also difficult to find groups. And that's also a difference that I want to discuss. In Wrath of the Lich King, you have LFG, which is a okay system, but it is only server wide and only with your own faction. So it means that if you're playing on a dead server, you don't get a lot of teammates, which means that you will not have a lot of gaming time, especially if you are, like, let's say, a off meta spec, which is not going to be very valuable for teams. For example, you're not going to get invited. If you're elemental shaman, you will get more invites than, let's say, a demonology warlock or a arcane mage or even a frost mage sometimes in different comps. So you have a lot of differences there, and it becomes a bit harder to invite because people do care about their rating, and it is also very hard to come in because the barrier of entry is very, very big. While, for example, in Dragonflight, LFG is something that you will have to struggle with in the beginning because you need to be a bit more social. But you can see really that there's a lot more groups going on because it is actually region wide. Not region wide, but yeah, it's region wide. So you have EU, so you have like English servers, Dutch servers, French servers, and those servers are all combined into one LFG system where you can find people and you can play cross faction. So you can also play with Horde and alliance, and that makes it that the player pool is a bit bigger, so it becomes also very easy to actually find people to play with, and you are not stuck in LFG or doing PvE just because you have to kill time while you're finding teammates. And that's something very, very big. But the one thing that I really like about Dragonflight, which makes me very, very which makes it actually very like difficult to come back to Wrath of the Lich King, because the simple fact that you could solo shuffle in Dragonflight makes it that you don't want to play a version of the game where you don't have solo shuffle. Ranked solo shuffle is such a fantastic thing, such a fantastic game mode that really, and to be honest, it is something that I was not really a fan of in the beginning, but it is super addictive because you really want to improve your own rating. You want to actually have that dopamine rush whenever you're winning those rounds, and sometimes when you lose, you are a bit mad, but you're there again queuing up for another round. Especially, they have actually improved the systems that you are not going to play tank versus tanks. Now you only have one tank in a pool of 6 players, which, to be honest, I play a lot of solo shuffle on my disc priest. I don't see a lot of tanks anymore, not even a guardian druid. I see a lot of demon hunters though, like havoc demon hunters, but that's not a problem for another day. But in general, they are fixing problems. They, of course, there's still a lot of problems going on for solo shuffle, but I feel like the positives are outweighing the negatives, and just for that fact, I feel like Dragonflight is just a worthwhile expansion to play if you like to play a solo queue system. Again, a lot of people don't want to wait in LFG to find someone. And I feel like if you're like me, you play with mates, I feel like your 3v3 or 2v2 rating, you don't really want to play with like people that you don't know. And I feel like it gives an option for players to actually be competitive outside of playing with your mates. So you could just queue up for solo shuffle while you're waiting for people to connect online to play 3v3 or 2v2 with you, and then you can go back to 3v3 queue whenever your whole squad is up. And I feel like that's a great system, and Wrath of the Lich King Classic doesn't have that. And that's something that actually, like, a lot of private servers changed, because they know people like to play solo queue, because people like the excitement of being one versus all and trying to get that rating as high as possible just by your own strength. And I feel like that alone is something that I would want to see it in a future where they do a Classic Plus expansion, like Classic Wrath of the Lich King Plus expansion, where they are actually building upon the good things of retail and put it in back in Classic. I'm not going to say that they need to change everything from Classic to make it retail. I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of good ideas from retail that could take place into like Wrath of the Lich King Classic or whatever expansion they are going to build, like if it's Cataclysm next or if it's Mist of Pandaria. I feel like those ideas could really mesh well into one system. And to be honest, so like a solo queue system is something very, very good for games. People are just engaged more with that aspect than with, let's say, 3v3 or 2v2. Is it more rewarding, at least, to play solo shuffle instead of 3v3? I don't think so. I feel like the bragging rights from having a higher rated rating, I would say, in 3v3 is something that is going to be much more important than, let's say, in solo shuffle. But solo queue is something that is made for players and will be built upon players. I feel like that's something very, very interesting too. Another point I want to discuss, I feel like gearing in Dragonflight is much, 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 much more easy compared with Wrath of the Lich King. I feel like Wrath of the Lich King is something that is very fun. I'm still playing on it. Like I'm not going to be hating on it because I myself still play on it. But I know that my time investment is a lot a lot bigger to be competitive in PvP. I cannot only do PvP only. I could do that, but the problem is it takes a longer time to get to the point where I'm going to obliterate people. If I'm doing PvE, I get like a lucky drop on a Nax 25 weapon, let's say Betrayer of Humanity. That itself is going to give you 200 rating extra, because just by overpowering your enemies, you're going to actually gain rating, not only because of skill. While, for example, in Dragonflight now, the eye levels are much more smaller compared to the base honor gear, the conquest gear, the open world gear. Everything is much more narrow, which makes that the skill expression is much more higher. Um, Now the thing is, again, balancing, etc. It's something that is very big, and in Dragonflight, it is ever changing. It's going to change season after season, patch after patch. They could also do mini patches here and there. They did discuss it in a blue post that they want to do more and faster patches for balancing changes for PvP and PvE. But you need to understand that in Wrath of the Lich King, it is not changing. It is basically you're playing on a 3.3.5 server or a 3.4 now server that is going to stay like this forever. So an elemental shaman will still be top dog. It doesn't matter if it's going to be season 6 or season 10 or whatever season you're playing in Wrath of the Lich King, it is still going to stay like this till the end. The better classes are going to only get better, and the worse classes are going to be just a bit less worse, but they are not going to be overpowering people. Of course, you're going to say, look, armor pen is such a big stat for warriors and hunters, but warriors are all already good in PvP, so they are only going to get better with armor pen. And hunter, the particularity of hunters is armor pen is good for marksmanship hunter, but you're going to notice that a lot of classes are going to overpower hunters by straight power, and hunters will have to actually bust their I'm not going to say that word because I'm going to get demonetized, but you see the point. It is going to improve those specs, those classes, but you need to understand that by itself it is not going to change, while Dragonflight is ever changing, which makes it a lot more lovable to play in the long run. I'm going to say that I'm very tired to play all those elemental X comps in 3v3 on Wrath of the Lich King Classic. I don't know about you guys, but not being able to play versus different comps makes me a bit more sad because it's always going to be the same result. Our comp versus a elemental shaman destruction warlock or elemental shaman with a warrior, whatever. It is going to be very annoying because it's only going to be repetitive because people are going to play the same way all the time. Well, in Dragonflight, I may say a lot of comps are like very varied and different from each other, which makes it more enjoyable to again get rating, get gear, getting better, and try to get glad, try to get rank 1 if people are pushing for rank 1. At least it will be more fun to play with the different comps instead of only one or two comps, because those two comps are like overplayed on private servers, and now everyone is going to play it on classic servers. So that's pretty much the differences between Wrath of the Lich King Classic and Dragonflight PvP. I must say, of course, I could talk about numbers, I could talk about balancing, I could talk about classes, how they are different, but I feel like I'm going to nitpick a lot about that because it doesn't have anything to do with the PvP systems. It has only to do with balancing. And like I said, balancing is ever changing on Dragonflight, while in Wrath of the Lich King it is fixed in a time where there is never going to be a nerf on Elemental Shaman, there is never going to be a nerf on Unholy DKs, or never going to be a fix where you could Trinket as Silence, because Strangulate is such a powerful ability. There is never going to be a fix for Assassination Rogues to actually being able to blind a target and get those dots off the target. That's never going to be added in the game, at least in Wrath of the Lich King. But in Dragonflight, if Elemental Shaman is like overpowering everyone, be sure they are going to get like tuned up a notch and to a way where they are going to lose some numbers. And then if they are still going to be good, it will be only because of the design, and then you can still win with your classes versus like Elemental Shaman, for example. So I wanted to discuss about that because a lot of people are still talking about that on forums. People actually complaining about Dragonflight, saying that Classic is better or whatever. I'm okay with you guys. I like Classic. I still play Classic, but you cannot say that Dragonflight is a worse version, because it's not. It's really, really, really resembling Wrath of the Lich King, because again, you can die also without CDs. So I don't know. I really like Dragonflight. Maybe I might be biased, but let me know in the comment section below what you think about that video, about the discussion. Let me know what you think about Dragonflight, about Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and we will catch each other very soon with a new video. Have a great day. Bye.